Hi, I'm Gyiori, and I'm the Field Application Engineer of Residential Products here at ABB.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Kedzior, and I'm the Global Product Manager of Electronic Miniature Circuit Breakers.
The information we are discussing today is accurate as of November 1st, 2023. Additions and changes may be made to this product line. We will give you an understanding of the ABB miniature circuit breaker offerings and the National Electric Code to understand how they affect the design and installation of our products.
And on top of that, we'll see how to troubleshoot the miniature circuit breakers and where to find additional resources. So ABB has many options available for miniature circuit breakers for both residential and commercial applications. Our frame sizes range from 1/2 inch to 3 inches depending on the type of breaker. Also, whether it's 1 pole, 2 poles, or 3 poles. The amperage range can also be from 15 to 125 amps with short circuit ratings available from 10,000 AIC to 65,000 AIC. ABB's miniature circuit breakers have tin or silver-plated copper stabs for corrosion resistance with a heat-resistant thermoset case. The ABB Bylog is a great place to confirm the miniature circuit breaker options required for your application.
We have multiple breaker installation options available. Our PowerMark Pro load centers accept the plug-on neutral connection system known as ReliaLock. It incorporates a clip-on breaker and a rounded neutral mounting bar on the load center's interior. It is rounded to facilitate mounting the breakers from many different angles and is tied into the traditional neutral bar. Installation of these breakers is very similar to that of a traditional breaker. The heel of the breaker is slid into the metal mounting rail. Then, while rotating the breaker into place, the ReliaLock clip securely interlocks with the ReliaLock bar.
Besides our plug-on neutral offering, we have long pigtail and short pigtail options available for both PowerMark Pro and PowerMark Gold load centers. The long pigtail breakers can have the pigtail shortened in the field, and another great option for commercial applications is our bolt-on version to be installed in our ReliGear panel boards.
We also offer a cable in to cable out or lug-lug option. For thermomagnetic lug-lug breakers, we have options that can be DIN rail mounted and versions that can also be installed with our front or back mounting accessories. For electronic miniature circuit breaker lug-lug options, they can only be mounted in our snap-in back mounting plates.
What if you could have twice the number of breaker spaces in the same load center? We offer tandem and quad breakers, which are great for when you need to save space in new construction or renovations.
The tandem breaker has 2 independent 1/2 inch single poles that occupies 1 breaker space within the load center ranging from 15 to 20 amps per pole. The quad breaker requires 2 breaker spaces, but they have 2 independent 1/2 inch outer single poles that range in amperage from 15 to 20 and 1 independent interior 2-pole breaker ranging from 15 to 40 amps.
We also offer a range of protections on our different breakers. First, a thermomagnetic breaker protects against overloads and short circuits. An overload is when the load connected to a breaker exceeds the rated amperage for the circuit wiring. A short circuit is when the hot wire comes in contact with either a neutral wire, ground wire, or another hot wire. If a thermomagnetic breaker detects either an overload or short circuit, the breaker will trip.
The National Electric Code, or NEC, recognizes that the operation of overcurrent protective devices may be affected by the heat within a system. Because of this, it defines the concept of continuous loads and the 80% limitation in order to try and offset the effects of heat in the system when sizing a circuit breaker. If we have to size a circuit breaker rating to 125% of the continuous load current, then we are only utilizing 80% of the circuit breaker's current carrying capacity. The circuit breaker is designed to carry 100% of its current rating, but the NEC restricts the application for continuous loads to 80% of the circuit breaker's rating. There are 100% rated breakers that have been tested and labeled for use at 100% of its continuous current rating. Otherwise, a breaker may only have a maximum of 80% of its labeled continuous current rating.
Another great option for protection is an arc fault circuit interrupter, which detects arc faults and then de-energizes the breaker. Combination arc fault circuit interrupters protect against overloads, short circuits, parallel arcs, and series arcs. A parallel arc is the unintentional flow of electricity between 2 separate wires, whereas a series arc fault occurs when the unintentional flow of electricity is over a gap within a single wire. Arc faults can arise from many situations, including damaged wires, worn insulation, loose electrical connections, overheated or stressed cords and wires, and many more circumstances. Arc fault circuit interrupters can be installed in multi-wired circuits, shared neutrals, and mixed neutrals with ease. Some of the simplest wiring and retrofit jobs have become very complicated with the expanding NEC requiring arc fault circuit interrupters.
Multi-wire circuits and shared or mixed neutral installations did not work easily with an arc fault protection requiring hours of tracing neutrals to install the new arc fault breakers. When arc fault circuit interrupters were introduced in response to the NEC requirements, the new technology monitored the complete circuit. This meant the hot side and the neutral side needed to show no signs of the potential arc fault events, usually the result of deteriorated wires, poor connections, or installation breaches. To achieve this, arc fault circuit interrupters incorporated some level of ground fault detection and, as such, needed a dedicated neutral path back to the breaker to avoid nuisance tripping.
ABB has patented technology in the arc fault circuit interrupters to identify these abnormalities in a circuit's waveform that may be caused by arcing conditions. The technology does not rely on a clean neutral path, so you're not restricted to how you can mix or share neutrals. For new construction, you can choose between returning the neutral wire back to the breaker or to the neutral bar, whatever works best given your layout and space.
Now you have a head start on retrofits because you don't need any pre-replacement research. You can treat your new AFCI Advantage breaker exactly like you would have treated the thermomagnetic breaker it's replacing. You leave the existing neutrals of the old thermomagnetic breaker terminated on the neutral bar as they were. You do not need to identify the neutrals and land them on a new arc fault circuit interrupter's neutral lug. Simply remove the old thermomagnetic breaker, replace it with a combination arc fault breaker by installing the hot wire into the breaker and either terminating the pigtail into the neutral or utilizing the Rely-A-Lot clip connection to get the arc fault protection you need. But if it is time to upgrade and change out the arc fault circuit breakers, it's also a good idea to upgrade and change out your panel.
Another option is ground fault circuit interrupters. They provide protection against overloads, short circuits, and ground faults. The ground fault breakers detect low levels of electrical current leakage, also known as a ground fault, and they act quickly to shut off the power, with the purpose of preventing serious shock. Typically, electrical current traveling to an appliance is equal to the current traveling from that appliance. An imbalance in that flow indicates a current leak, also referred to as a ground fault, because the leaking current is flowing to ground. If the leaking current travels through a person, they will be shocked or electrocuted. There are two options available for ground fault protection. First is personnel protection, which protects against ground leakages of 5 milliamps or greater, and is mainly seen in residential and commercial applications. Second is equipment protection, which protects against ground leakages of 30 milliamps or greater, which is typically found in a variety of applications and industries, including de-icing systems, semiconductor manufacturing, heat trace systems, and many more.
Let me give you an example. If a hairdryer is dropped into a tub full of water, some of the electrical current leaks out of the appliance and into the water. This current leakage could be enough to kill someone who comes in contact with the water, but not large enough to trip a non-ground fault circuit interrupter. Thermomagnetic circuit breakers only guard against overloads and short circuits. They are not designed to protect people from electrical shocks. When installing ground fault breakers, they cannot be on a shared neutral or the breaker will trip. Also, with a two-pole ground fault breaker being more prevalent in the 2020 code, please remember that for four-prong receptacles protected by ground fault circuit interrupters, if the ground and neutral are bonded in the appliance, the ground fault circuit interrupter will trip. The jumper bonding the ground and neutral needs to be removed if approved by the appliance manufacturer. Also, if you upgrade your appliance to a four-prong receptacle, you need to bring all four wires back to the breaker. If only 3 wires are brought back, it will trip the breaker.
Dual function circuit interrupters protect against overloads, short circuits, parallel arcs, series arcs, and ground faults. The ground fault protection utilized in a dual function breaker protects against ground leakages of 5 milliamps and greater. Because dual function breakers have ground fault protection within them, they cannot be on a shared neutral or the breaker will trip. The National Electric Code is a registered trademark of the National Fire Protection Association under NFPA 70 and the primary electrical installation standards in the United States. The National Electric Code is updated every 3 years, and the code is typically accepted and mandated by state or local jurisdictions. Once code is adopted, it is up to the electrical contractors and local authority to ensure compliance. The code has continuously expanded, adding additional arc fault and ground fault protection over the years. Ground fault circuit interrupters were first required by the NEC in 1971 for outdoor receptacles, which then expanded to bathrooms in 1975. Now in the 20th century, the requirements for ground faults have expanded extensively throughout the home due to their success. It now includes garages, additional kitchen receptacles and appliances, bedrooms, basements, and more. Arc fault circuit interrupters were required by the National Electric Code beginning in 1999, and then expanded to require combination arc fault circuit interrupters in 2008. Initially, combination arc faults were only required in living spaces like bedrooms and living rooms, but then it expanded to include kitchens, laundry spaces, and more. For requirements and exceptions, please refer to the National Electric Code and your local jurisdiction's regulations.
As technology is continually changing, we are required to adapt the electronic miniature circuit breakers. If an electronic miniature circuit breaker trips, we recommend, when going on site, resetting the breaker and reviewing the LEDs located on the ground fault, combination arc fault, and dual function breakers to begin troubleshooting. The breaker LEDs will begin as orange to demonstrate that the breaker is functioning properly. If the breaker begins orange and then goes to a steady yellow, the breaker has detected a ground fault. If the breaker LED begins orange and goes to a steady red, the breaker has detected a parallel arcing event. If the breaker LED begins orange and then goes to a flashing red, it detects a series arcing event. If the breaker is flashing red and yellow, please replace the breaker. After determining the LEDs, we recommend checking the wiring connections at the breaker, receptacles, and the attached equipment. Confirm if the breaker has any ground fault detecting capabilities and the breaker is not on a shared neutral. Also, confirm the load attached to the breaker when it is tripped is not pulling more amperage than the breaker is rated for. Some appliances with heating elements or motors can have an inrush current that can pull more amperage than the circuit wiring. When there is an issue, we want to help find the best solution for you. We have different options available depending on the situation.
When we receive a report of a breaker tripping, we're always keeping track of the reported issues. If we get enough reports on an appliance, then we reach out to the appliance manufacturer to work with them directly, or we even have purchased appliances to test in our lab to address these issues. If tripping continues, please contact your local support with the information located on the left side of the breaker to provide the best solution. We also need the manufacturer's make and model of all equipment connected to that breaker and the LED sequence once the breaker was reset. With this information, we want to work with you to provide the best solution.
If you are looking for additional information about ABB's miniature circuit breakers, please check our Bylog, ABB publication library, or our website.
Thank you so much for joining us today and learning about the ABB miniature circuit breaker offering. We look forward to doing business with you.